So thanks everyone for joining us today. My name is Nick Gasky. I'm one of the architects at Kaleido. Presenting today, we have Bob Blessing-Hartley. He's our head of global solution architecture and been in enterprise blockchain and all things Web3 for many, many years now. So very lucky to have him. We're going to be orienting this session today around digital assets, tokenization with a particular emphasis on NFTs. We'll look at a lot of the modules and interfaces and API services inside of Kaleido and also inside of some of our dedicated services that we've built on top of Kaleido that really help accelerate that journey. One thing to note, we're not, sort of catering towards a specific industry, a specific vertical. You'll notice that it's very much infrastructure as a service. So a lot of the patterns that you're going to leverage to create an NFT, attach private data, transfer, divide, bridge that asset. These can be applicable to different asset classes, different use cases, et cetera. Couple pieces of housekeeping. Please don't be shy. We love for these to be as interactive as possible. So if you have a question, if you have a question oriented around your specific use case, please raise your hand, use the chat, ask a question. We have a couple team members online, so we're happy to monitor that and answer those interactively. This is recorded, so you'll receive the recording whether you're here. Just as long as you've registered, you'll receive the recording in about 24 hours. And if you'd like to revisit any previous webinars where we've covered other things around tokenization, wallets, integration, decentralized identities, zero knowledge proofs, all sorts of really fun stuff, just visit our YouTube page. Just search Kaleido Blockchain on YouTube and you'll see a big old library there with all those artifacts and all those assets. There are a few polls that we're going to be doing during this. So if you don't mind, please just throw an applicable answer in there. And once again, just emphasize, if you have any questions whatsoever, raise your hand, use the chat, and we'll engage you that way. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Bob to start showing some really exciting pieces of Kaleido and of the asset platform. So Bob, over to you.
All right, thanks, Nick. So we've had a number of webinars over the past couple of months around NFTs specific to various industries, financial services, gaming, etc. Today's focus is really more on the engagement with customers, things like loyalty and more of the traditional NFT type experience that you would see. So I'm going to dive right into it. Again, as Nick said, I'm here for you. So any questions you have, please don't hesitate to ask either during or at the end of the presentation, either way. So diving right in, I wanted to just give a high-level overview of the overall Kaleido stack. So even though we are focusing today on consumer-facing NFT applications, it's important to understand that unlike many offerings that you see out there in the NFT space around creating or launching an NFT, what Kaleido provides is a true enterprise-grade stack that gives you the complete solution for a custom NFT-based application. So it's not just, here's how you mint an NFT into OpenSea. It's how do I have the engagement level? How do I map identities onto NFTs? How do I mint things at scale without actually going to chain? How do I manage my gas policies for minting to chain? And what types of chain do I want to have my NFTs going to? And that can all be based on your particular use case. At the bottom layer of our stack, we have our chain infrastructure. So we have our blockchain as a service capabilities down here on the left-hand side of the bottom layer. So whether it's a private, so entirely you as a company providing the chain, or a consortium where you have a group of companies coming together to provide a chain-based service, or whether you are going to integrate into a public chain using a side chain as a means to save gas fees, et cetera. We provide that entire spectrum of blockchain as a service infrastructure. On top of that, I mentioned we have that enterprise grade stack that's in the middle. That's the Firefly Supernode. It's a set of asset middleware and infrastructure. So there's a gateway technology in there for providing you chain agnostic access into Web3 applications. That's really significant because one of the things that it does is it lowers the bar of entry for developing Web3 applications. A typical Web2 developer, full stack developer who's familiar with REST APIs and things like that can build a truly meaningful Web3 application using those APIs. Also in that layer, we have private messaging, event management, and custody, so identity and key management capabilities that are truly enterprise grade. We also provide you with options for obscuring some of the complexity of Web3 from your consumers. And you'll see some of that both in the UI as I'm taking you through the demo, and also in the actual sample application I have running, where you can address your customers either who are Web2 savvy and used to things like username and password logins, or a crypto native or crypto savvy user who's used to things like MetaMask and things like that. And then on top of those, the chain infrastructure and the middleware, we've built a number of dedicated offerings. The one we're going to focus on today here is this NFT platform, which is allowing you to do mass scale NFT creation. And you can do this on a private side chain with zero gas and very high performance. And you can also bridge those assets out to public chains using trusted bridge technology in order to allow your solution to grow beyond just your walls into truly exchangeable assets and things like that as you progress down your NFT journey. So a number of the use cases that we've been focused on and have been working with customers on over the past several years in the NFT space that are beyond financial services are things like a digital collectible. And we're going to take a quick poll here while I'm talking through the slides. So you should see a poll pop up on your screen. If you would take a moment to specify what use cases you're most interested in, and then we can talk about those maybe at the end. So back to the use cases, we have digital collectibles. These are things where you might have a limited edition digital asset like a virtual trading card or a figurine, three-dimensional rendering of a figure that fans of a sport or music or theater or whatever can buy and trade and showcase. In the virtual merchandise, you can create digital versions of your luxury goods, which you can wear or display in virtual worlds. Also in that luxury goods space, there are things like providing verification of the actual asset, that it is in fact a non-counterfeited good. We've done a number of very successful implementations around using digital coupons and issuing a coupon as an NFT, so that it makes it very easy to track and who is using them, when they're used, driving effectiveness of those coupons, and also eliminating fraud from like double spend of a coupon and waste in terms of issuing a coupon that nobody wants. It's also really common in the space to see customer loyalty programs. So you have, in addition to sort of award points in the form of fungible tokens, we've seen some really interesting projects here where companies are issuing an NFT as a unique reward for achieving a certain milestone, which then can either be redeemed for goods or services or exclusive experiences. A really powerful capability there. Then in the event ticketing space, it's also extremely powerful in the sense that you can issue an NFT as a proof of purchase ticket. It can even be assigned to a specific person or identity, so that you can have a soul-bound NFT, so that you issue a ticket to Nick Gasky, and only Nick Gasky with proof of ID and the presence of that NFT is able to enter into the event. And then finally, we're seeing a lot of use cases coming through that are using NFTs to just verify the origin and the authenticity of products, and also to prove out the sustainability, ESG, so the green or socially responsible practice associated with the particular product that the NFT is serving as a digital twin for. So I see a lot of you are interested in customer loyalty programs, and be happy to discuss those in greater detail with you in the future, in how you can use both NFTs and fungible tokens and the Kaleido Asset Platform to help create a compelling customer loyalty program. Again, transparency, traceability, event ticketing, digital collectibles, these are all some of the very common use cases we're seeing. So it's great to see that there's strong interest in those spaces. So thank you for your input there. So if we look at on a high level what some of the capabilities of the Kaleido's NFT platform, or digital asset platform is a generic term for that, at its core and very significantly is an open source engine. I mentioned on one of the earlier slides, Hyperledger Firefly. Hyperledger Firefly is the core of the solution. You'll see that in the demonstration as well. It provides your dashboard, it provides your interfaces into the token management, it provides the landing space for connecting in identity, chain, and your business process in the form of smart contracts. We have on the chain infrastructure side, we have both robust private permissioned chain capabilities, crossing a variety of EVM-based protocols. So we have support for Quorum, Hyperledger Besu, Go Ethereum, and Polygon as private networks. We also support Hyperledger Fabric and R3 Corda OS in that chain infrastructure. Then in the tokenization platform, that's going to be our focus today, where we talk about the NFTs and how you can create collections of NFTs, assign them, we'll do things like lazy minting of an NFT. I'll explain what that is a little bit later. Lazy minting and allocation and the overall management of the token lifecycle. The platform also has a very robust smart contract management capability and also supports upgradable smart contracts. And so I'll walk through some of that in the demonstration. Transaction management, so seeing where transactions are in their overall flow step by step, and we'll trace through some of those in the demonstration. A wide variety of connectivity, both to chain infrastructure as also to external systems using standard technologies such as event buses, web hooks, web sockets, etc., for integrating with internal and externally facing systems. The other thing that we have as part of this overall platform is a wide variety of custody options, ranging from an on-platform hierarchical deterministic wallet, or HD wallet, which is sort of the low bar of entry and very useful for users who are less crypto savvy. That's a wallet which can have over 2 billion keys assigned to it. And we'll see how you can map some of those into things like an OIDC compliant OAuth provider and do mapping of your Web 2 users onto Web 3 addresses. The engine also provides indexing of the data on chain, transaction rules, a wide variety of policies for security, and the entire stack is SOC 2 Type 2 certified annually, and we also maintain active ISO 27001, 17, and 18 certification. So the net of it is you have a complete and robust stack that's enterprise grade for your NFT applications. Diving in a little bit into the tokenization standards, out of the box, Kaleido supports the two most common ERCs for NFTs, the ERC 721. This is very useful for doing things like art, access tokens, carbon credits, etc. 1155 is a slightly newer standard. That's a multi-token standard, and that's where it can represent any number of non-fungible and fungible token types. So what's really powerful here is you can very easily do fractionalization of an NFT. So if you represent a piece of property or a piece of fine art or a bond or something like that as an NFT, you can break that down into chunks and then, or specifically into fungible pieces of that broader asset and provide an asset trading platform for those. Then there are a bunch of other token standards out there that are emerging. We also support, and we'll see this in the demonstration, custom tokens. So if you have your own custom Solidity file that you've created, your own variation of a 721, 1155, or something entirely different. Examples of them that are emerging out there are soulbound tokens, which can do things like prevent transfer. I recently went to a concert where I had to prove who I was in order to gain admittance. And it also had a QR code that was backed by an NFT that would allow me only entrance into the event once and only when I had proved my identity. Really powerful type of capability. There are a couple of other standards that are emerging in the space. There's this the ERC 6551, which is a so-called backpack token. There's a metaverse token, I believe that's ERC 5606. And then there's a composable ERC 998, which is a variation of the 721, and there are more coming as we evolve. And that's one of the benefits of the Kaleido platform is we don't tie you to any one specific ERC, but rather we support the common standards in the Open Zeppelin library, such as 721 and 1155, as well as customizations that you need to take into account. So at this point, I'd like to take another quick poll and ask, where are you in your NFT journey? So if you're just starting, if you're just learning about NFTs, thinking about how you might use them in your business, or if you are ready to build one, or if you're already using one in your business today. And if so, love to talk after the presentation and demo about how we can help you depending on where you are in your journey. So if you want to just take a minute to do that, I want to spend about 5-10 more minutes talking about our platform, and then I want to dive directly into a demonstration and walk you through and show you how easy it is. At our core, though, our desire is to accelerate your NFT journey, in general, your Web3 journey. So our goals are to get you into production very quickly. So whereas a lot of what we call generation 1 blockchain implementations span months and years and millions of dollars, we specialize with our platform in getting you into production in weeks, and for significantly less than millions of dollars for your initial forays into the environment. You can also achieve true enterprise scale without compromising your user experience. The other thing that Kaleido does really well is we scale alongside you. So we can meet you where you are in your journey and provide you with the right level of offering and allow you to grow, whether it's from a multi-tenanted SaaS version into transitioning into a dedicated SaaS environment, all the way down to having a dedicated software model where you can install and configure this in your own cloud, on-prem, or the cloud provider of your choice. There's a huge amount of flexibility built into the platform. We have a bunch of plug-and-play services around data exchange, key management, and so on. And we have a very robust API surface. And I'll show you some of that, both at the platform layer as well as at the smart contract layer. So everything I'm going to show you in the demo ultimately has an API back behind it, and is very common that, once you've done your initial configurations, you spend very little time actually using the UI, but focus on using the APIs to create your fully automated experiences. So basically, we can allow you to address Web3 on your own terms. As I mentioned, we have a lot of capabilities built into the platform that make unlocking the value of Web3 much easier. So you don't have to have crypto experts or blockchain developers in order to be successful with Web3. We provide you with abstraction layers and interfaces that make sense to any standard full stack developer. We also design our platform so that instead of focusing on the underlying plumbing of an application and how do I handle messaging, how do I handle my integration with my identity provider, all of those pieces, things that you would go off and implement yourself. We provide you with all of that, allowing you to focus on creating your robust NFT app, your marketplace app, your loyalty program app, whatever it is you're creating on the top part here. We take care of everything running underneath it. So allowing you to do simplified user onboarding, have analytics. You can have a dedicated customizable block explorer if you have a private chain, and it can run with a dedicated sidechain or access public networks via our public RPC nodes that we provide to you. And because all of this is based on a open source platform, Hyperledger Firefly, and the various chain infrastructure underneath it with that multiple protocol connectivity, you can have control of your own nodes, your own data, and you're not locked into a specific technology. You can migrate that off should you need to in the future. We hope you don't, but we don't want to lock you into our platform. Just, I mentioned this early on, comparing platforms. Our platform, our goal is to provide you with full customization of your Web3 application and NFT marketplace applications with a dedicated side chain that gives you zero gas fees, zero transaction on the side chains. You only pay gas if you actually have a need to connect into a public chain. So this allows you to address millions of users for a single monthly consistent cost. Gives you full control over your configuration and consensus algorithms on those side chains. You own the nodes, and we manage all the complexity underneath it. And our platform, we have a robust backup restore capability that can also be used to migrate anytime to any place you want, should you decide to leave the platform. Other platforms, you end up having to create much of the other components that Kaleido creates for you. So you end up in an environment where you have a shared side chain, unpredictable gas fees. You don't have that underlying enterprise grade management of keys. You don't have any control over what the underlying chain technology is. And you're not sure who may be running those parties. The other thing is, you may actually just be getting, for an NFT, you might be getting somebody that publishes to OpenSea and tosses it on an S3 bucket somewhere, giving you very little visibility into the overall resilience of your particular application. It also requires that your users have to get crypto in order to transact, whereas Kaleido provides you a model where you can exchange NFTs without cryptocurrency or with your own internal currency that you created in the form of a fungible token on the platform, or using gas from a public chain, if that's the path you end up going down. I'm not going to walk down through this slide in point by point. I think it's more important to get into the demonstration, but this is available as part of the overview. It just gives you a side-by-side comparison of Kaleido versus other NFT platform vendors. I think I've already hit on these key points. It's just a nice layout of it. So before I dive into the demo, are there any questions, comments?
No, nothing in the chat as of yet, Bob, but just a reminder to the audience, no question too large or too small, and no bad questions. So feel free to raise your hand or throw them in the chat, and we can pivot and address those in real time throughout the demo.
All right, thanks, Nick. So what I'm going to walk you through here in the demo is the creation and management of NFTs at scale. I'm going to be minting to in this case, I'm going to mint to Polygon Mumbai, so public chain. I'll highlight some of the capabilities where I'm mapping users that are in the system to an OAuth provider, and I'll show you where that's happening. Look at the blockchain data, and also just focusing on what the actual user experience is. So when we look at this, you have your Web3 app, that's your responsibility. You have your back office system, that's your responsibility. We provide you with the APIs for the web app, as well as APIs and integration technologies to integrate into your back office systems. We provide, as part of the Kaleido Asset Platform, all the components you need to operate the system, your admin console, your connectivity, your connections to the chains, wallet types, identity management, side chains, dedicated infrastructure. So enough slides. I'm going to log into the Kaleido Asset Platform. And I have a sample application that I've got up and running here for the claiming of an NFT that's been minted to a particular user. And I'm going to show you what the pieces of that are. On the top level, that's interesting. not a real demo if you don't have an error. There we go. On the top level, you have your home screen, your dashboard, which has all the key components of a Web3 application. You have your business logic in the form of a smart contract. You have your chain connectivity, so connecting to one or more chains here. So in this case, we see here I have this is a permission side chain. This is connecting into Polygon Mumbai. This is another side chain that I've created. Then you have connectivity into IPFS. So in addition to the blockchain connectivity, Kaleido provides the ability to connect either into a permissioned, in other words, running on our blockchain as a service offering, or into the public IPFS network for storing of binary data such as PDFs, images, etc. I'll show you some of that in the demo later on. Address management, so wallets, and we'll dive into that, different types of wallets. And then there's a whole surface for managing NFTs specifically. So this is where you can define the metadata, the interactions that an NFT has, what gets written into the NFT when it's written the chain, all of that kind of information can be defined here. And then tying it all together, you have the Firefly namespace. The Firefly namespace is the middleware glue that allows you to build that secure Web3 application. So it ties together your smart contracts, your identities, your NFT connecting into token pools, your connectivity to a particular blockchain. So I'm going to start off by provisioning a smart contract and showing you our smart contract management capabilities as the business logic. So in here, I can create a build. So a build is the compiled version of a contract that's not actually associated with a particular blockchain yet. So it's what this tool does is it allows you to generate a smart contract using one of Kaleido's standard contracts. So for example, I mentioned early on, we support out of the box ERC20, 721, and 1155s. You can also import from your GitHub repository. So if you have a custom Solidity file that you've created, you can provide the link here, and you can specify the contract that's being compiled out of that Solidity file. And you can also provide a personal access token if that is a non-public GitHub environment. So you have flexibility there. You can also upload a Solidity file from your file system if you've compiled it, say with Truffle or some other tool on your system. If you have a compiled contract somebody provided with you, you can upload the ABI and bytecode and then deploy it. Or if you have a contract that's already on chain and you've been given the address for it, you can provide the ABI of that chain, point to the address of that contract, and then use that on-chain contract. I'm going to create a new smart contract just as a demonstration here. So the demo I have is using a 721 token that I created earlier this morning. But the basic process is I come in here and I can give it a name. And I can specify the characteristics. So as I come through and specify these things, can it be minted? Manage the IDs, so the token index, manage that for me. Can they be burned, paused, enumerated? Is there URI storage? So are we storing binary data with them? Different access control models, and then the security contact and what license might have. I can come in here. I can also launch into Remix. So say I want to take the base 721 and I want to add some extensions to it. I can load that directly into Remix from within the UI, make my edits, save them back to GitHub, and then I can import them back in using the import from GitHub functionality here. But I'm just going to use the, so there it is, it's loaded. So there's my 721 contract. Looks like Remix is being slow today. Over in Remix. So once I've done that, I can specify the name for it. Start this demo. And I can organize this so I can have a logical structuring. So I'm going to say this is July 25th demo. Oops, I already have that. So I'm going to just add it in there. There it is. And what that's going to do is it's going to go in and extract from Open Zeppelin's GitHub repository and generate a smart contract based on the characteristics I provided to it. It's going to perform a linting of that contract to make sure that it's valid solidity and not some other type of code that's trying to be maliciously inserted. And then it'll build it, and it's ready to be deployed to a chain. I can then, since it's successfully compiled it, I can go ahead and I can deploy this build. I can choose where I want it to go. Because this is just a demo, I'm going to send it to my smart chain. If I selected a chain that had a gas requirement, I could also pick a wallet that has the appropriate type of crypto. So this is Matic, since this is the Mumbai network. But I'm going to go ahead and just deploy this to my standard side chain. I'm going to use my permission key to deploy it. And if I then look at that demo deployment, I can see what actions have been taken. I see that the deployment was successful. Now that's where I can do some truly powerful things. So in addition to going through and linting and compiling, pulling all the dependencies and things like that, I can now create a Web 2 interface, a REST interface for this smart contract, so that my developers don't have to know all the various JSON RPC calls in order to interact with the smart contract. And to do that, I can come up here and I can create an API endpoint, and I choose the contract that I deployed here. And I give it a name. This will be demo token API. And I can now launch into that API and view that API. I can do a couple of things with it. One, I can download an open API specification. So if I have developers who are creating an application, I can provide this to them without providing them access to CAP, the Kaleido Asset Platform. I can also, as a Kaleido Asset Platform developer, I can launch directly into that UI and exercise that contract in real time using those RESTful APIs that were generated for it. So this is an ERC 721 contract, and it has a bunch of methods associated with it. And this is a testing interface. I can go in and I can actually execute it. So here I see that I got a response body telling me what is the interface for this particular contract. And then there are all the various methods for looking for listeners. So for events, finding out who the owners are, for minting, burning, transferring. So all these simple REST APIs are available to you to develop your application. Once you've deployed it, you also can create what's called a token pool. A token pool is the Firefly construct for interacting with a particular smart contract. So I can come in here and I can create a token pool. So 721. Again, I focus on what's the contract that was deployed here. And I give it a name. And this will be, I'll call this demo pool. And this is pretty powerful here in that you can specify from what block number of the chain do you want to start indexing the tokens there. And you can use the default, which is the current block number, or provide your own. This allows you to prevent from indexing all the way back to block 0, where this, prior to where this token existed, and save you a lot of time in your indexing. I'll go ahead and create that. The last thing I can do here is create listeners. I can also invoke functions. So if I create a listener, I can again come in and look at that particular smart contract and say, I want to have an event listener that listens on this contract for when it's transferred. I want to issue an event on a specific topic. And I want to do it from the newest event. And this is a way in which you can send notifications out to external systems, other smart contracts, etc., that a particular type of event has happened within the smart contract. The next thing I would I would do in my journey after creating the token smart contract is I would deploy it to a namespace. I'm going to deploy it to an existing namespace I have. I have a blockchain connector here that is connecting to the Polygon Mumbai network using RPC nodes that Kaleido provides to the platform. I'm bringing this up because there are a wide variety of settings you can configure here that are very useful depending on whether you're going into a side chain or out to a public chain. So when you're working with a public chain, you want to manage things like how many confirmations do I need to have before I consider the transaction final? And then how do I want to manage the gas price? There are different ways of doing that. I can query the node for the gas price, which, if the node is very active, that can be a relatively reliable source for getting the current gas price. You can specify a fixed gas price, or what we typically see people doing is querying an oracle for the gas price, and we provide there the ability to provide an oracle URL and a template where you can specify, what's the maximum I'm willing to pay for accelerated transactions and things like that. So defining what data you want to get back from the oracle can all be specified within the gas price area. You can also specify the number of in-flight transactions and resubmission intervals to tune your connectivity to the chain. We set these to some pretty basic values. The last piece of this that's a very powerful functionality is we can optionally provide you with a gas station. In other words, we can provide you with a Ethereum address or a wallet address that is funded with tokens. And when you deploy, instead of using the key that's associated with the Firefly namespace and the contract deploy, you can say, I want to get my gas tokens from this address, which is secured in a Cloud HSM, for example. And then you can also scale that request. So if you're going to be minting a bunch of tokens, you don't want to transfer gas for each individual transaction. You can go off and say, I'm going to be minting 1,000 tokens. I want to scale my gas request by 1,000 so that I only do that public crypto transfer once and incur only one transfer fee for it, as opposed to incurring 1,000 individual transfer fees. And I'm now going to just show you the Firefly namespace here. This is the side chain that I created, and this is where I deployed my smart contract. So I can come in and I can look at the various events. So I can see here that my token smart contract was deployed. There's my interface being created. So on the top level, what you see in the user interface from Firefly is the administrative view of what's going on in the system, what's happened in the system. Underneath, of course, you're getting all of that robust middleware that I mentioned earlier. You can also view what APIs have been defined. So here we see that one I just created, the demo token. There's a July 25th, and I have a bunch of other APIs that I've created. Any listeners that have been defined. So here's the listener that I've said, all right, when there's a transfer from an address to another address, issue an event to it. There's an overall dashboard up here that shows you, over the past period of time, what's happened to a particular network. This one's kind of boring. Let me pick my Mumbai one. So we can see here that in the past 24 hours, I've performed 152 blockchain transactions. So that means, for me, that means I did 2 token smart contract deploys, and then I did 150 mint transactions along the way. So it just gives you a very powerful surface to manage the overall experience. And then you can also come down here and check your configuration. What am I connected to? So here we see I'm connected into the Mumbai network, and I'm connected into a production IPFS node. It's actually a node bank provided by Kaleido, and what my default signing key is. So now I'm ready to dive into the actual NFT creation aspect of it. I'm going to use the contract I created earlier, and I'm going to go into the NFT services and In the NFT services, we have, again, a dashboard, which will show me the recent activities, what my collections are. A collection is a grouping of NFTs. I then have collections, which I've got some older ones here. I can come in and I can look and see what the status of any given NFT is. I see, for example, these were created but not yet minted. And then we have templates. Templates are an immensely powerful capability on the platform that allows you to specify what is the data that's going to be associated with that NFT smart contract. So I've got a template here that I've pre-created, but there's a UI here where you can enter in JSON-ATA, and we provide some templates in our documentation that show you examples of things like calling out to external services, as well as very complex examples around generation of dynamic content with actual JavaScript code embedded into it. I have here a simple award template. So this is a loyalty award template that I created this morning for this particular demonstration. It has attributes of, what is it? This one has, since it's an award, I'm giving somebody an award for a particular ad campaign. I can associate an image with it, name, who it's being allocated to, a unique ID. I can associate it to a campaign. All of these attributes here, these are the metadata that I want to have stored on chain for this particular NFT. And I'm going to go ahead and create that template. And once I've created the template, I can go ahead and I can now start creating NFTs based on that and putting them into a collection. And again, as I mentioned very early in the call, what I'm doing here, I'm doing in the UI. A lot of this would be at scale accomplished very easily through the API, where you would be passing in a whole array of IDs and images, image paths, and all sorts of things like that to create these at scale. I'm doing just one by one. So I'm going to create here. This will be brand loyalty is my collection. And this is just an organizational concept. I specify the token pool. So that's, remember I created that early on. That's the thing that allows me to interact with the token smart contract. And I can also add in optional collection metadata if I want. I don't, that's a specific configuration for the collection. I don't need any of that for this particular item. And then I can come in here and now I can go ahead and I can create NFTs. So we distinguish between creating and minting. Creating is putting everything that you need for this particular NFT off chain, zero gas, whether you're going to public or not, because it doesn't exist on a chain yet. So it saves you processing time. The reason I'm going down this path is I want to issue an award only to people who want to claim it. Why? Because I'm going out to a public network, and anytime I transfer on the public network, I'm going to see, anytime I mint to, in this case, Polygon, I'm going to see a charge of about 3 cents worth of Matic for everything I mint. So I'm going to do what's called lazy minting here, and I'm going to create the NFT based on my demo award. This is just a unique identifier here. And I'm going to allocate this to a user. I've got a user named Alice, customer.com. And Alice does not have a wallet. She's not crypto savvy. So I'm saying that when Alice logs into my application for the first time, there are going to be a series of API calls that are going to dynamically create a wallet for Alice and create a key for Alice and give her a signing address. This would be customer of the year. And I'm going to select an image. I'm just going to pick something random that I have. Random and boring. So as not to distract. This is an image that was dynamically generated by another template. And the name here is Alice Customer. It's going to generate that for me. And this is the Customer of the Year campaign in 2023. And category. I don't really care what it is. And then I can generate this. And so there's the fancy artwork that Alice is going to get, showing that she was the customer of the year for 2023. And then we have all the metadata that will ultimately be written to chain for this particular NFT when Alice logs in and claims that. So we can see here's the metadata that I defined in the template. Here is the hash of the blob and the name of the file that's going to be there. We're going to see that's going to be transferred out to IPFS when I go ahead and mint that. So I can go ahead and create the NFT. I could optionally mint it if I wanted to. So I could, in addition to assigning it to a user, I could also mint directly to a wallet. If I know, for example, that Alice wants that award, or I'm willing to incur the cost of minting to the public chain, I can do that. But I'm going to switch over to a different browser here, just so I don't have user collision, and show you. Alice is going to log in here to my sample application. Oops, or maybe not. There we go. I had the wrong URL. And we see here, this is what I was doing this morning. I created an NFT, assigned it to Alice. And when Alice logged in, what it did is it created a wallet address for Alice. And if I go back into the Kaleido Asset Platform and go into the wallet, it is this one down here, I think, mapped. So it's used my OAuth provider, which is in this case Keycloak, and it has mapped that OAuth ID onto that key address in that hierarchical deterministic wallet. So this one was the one I did earlier today. This is the lazy minted one. You'll notice it's actually using a different template as well. So if I come in and click on it, I can now go ahead and I can claim this. So still nothing has happened on chain at all. It's all happening on the Kaleido Asset Platform. As soon as I claim and mint it, it's going to publish this out onto Polygon, and it's going to publish the metadata, both the textual metadata and the binary metadata, onto IPFS. I'll claim and mint. Again, we're eager to help you meet your customers where they are. I'm going to mint to the HD wallet, but it's a very straightforward exercise to do things like connect to an external wallet through MetaMask or some other provider to be able to mint to a public chain. Alice is not very crypto savvy, so she's just going to use the Acme Corp wallet here. And it's going to go off and it's going to go through the minting process. And if I go back to the Kaleido Asset Platform, to my blockchain connector, I can see the transaction. This is the transaction I just submitted a few seconds ago. What key is being used? It's using that permissioned key, which has some matic associated with it. And I can dive down in and I can see what's actually going on with that particular contract. And there I can see on a high level, okay, I got the gas price. Signed the non-signed the transaction, submitted, confirmed. So there's the overall view of that particular contract. So I can then go back to here and hopefully it has updated my. So there we go. I can see the token URI. So it's published it out to IPFS. If I come in here and say, show me what that looks like. So there's the actual metadata stored on IPFS for that particular token. And then there's a reference here to the IPFS location of the data that's stored in there. And the transaction hash, I can always find that since this is a public chain transaction, I can come in and paste that into the Polyscan and see what the actual transaction information is, where it came from, what is it, what's the token ID, all of that information on a public network. So that's sort of the end-to-end flow. Again, what we are aiming to make extraordinarily easy for you is to make a robust customer experience, one much more robust than the simple demonstration I showed you here, where you might be able to add in some of our trusted bridging capabilities. So if somebody wants to move an asset from a side chain onto a public chain, or a marketplace where they want to transfer or sell a particular asset to another user, that's the area that our customers focus on, and allow Kaleido to focus on the plumbing. So with that, we have about 8 minutes left. I see we have a number of questions in the chat.
Yeah, so one question was just around clarification of, what's the difference between using that, allocate to modal parameter versus, directly to the blockchain first, right? So Bob he demonstrated a lot of things there, right? But one really particular, the thing we want to emphasize there is, if you're doing this at scale, right, it can, and especially on a public network, it can get quite expensive. It can be onerous to your, API surface and to the actual blockchain. It can be slow. So this does two things. This, sort of allows you to drip feed or control the traffic going into the network, but it also delegates control and authority to your end users, right? Maybe Bob's customer didn't care about being customer of the year, right? And they didn't want to claim that asset, for example. Or maybe you're, doing a huge campaign with hundreds of thousands or millions of airdrops, right? You don't want to flood the blockchain, private or public, with all of that traffic. The other thing that was really, really powerful here, that came across very clearly to me and hopefully to the audience, was just, Web3 is hard, and you start saying MetaMask and private keys to people that are, just want to play a game or redeem a coupon, you may alienate, a large percentage of the user base. What they want to do is take that existing, username and password that they're already comfortable using to get into your app, to get into your website, what have you. And what CAP is doing, the Kaleido Asset Platform, is, it'll magically custody that key behind the scenes, and it'll provide a really elegant sort of naming paradigm where you can say, hey, here's the UUID that I have parked in my OAuth system for this user. I know when they log in that I have this cached as an environment variable, and as a result, I know, what key to target inside of my HD wallet. It also makes it really easy to offboard users or onboard users. So Bob actually dynamically, through his application, created a key for Alice because Alice did not have an identity inside the HD wallet. She had no auth identity, but she didn't have a corresponding blockchain identity. So of course he could have minted it directly, but that's just an example of kind of, the ultimate abstraction flow that's right there. And we use the HD wallet, but as Bob mentioned, if you have a portion of customer bases that, are quasi crypto savvy and understand externally owned accounts, that's definitely an option too. A few things I wanted to highlight just to sort of make sure they're amplified. When we think about the functionality and, all of the bells and whistles that are in that smart contract management feature, also recognize that that's a landing zone for all of the blockchains that you want to talk to, right? So think of it as a Web3 gateway. Think of it as a landing zone for all of your business logic. And then you can arbitrarily choose which blockchains you want to talk to. So you're not redefining the interface. You're not sort of reinventing the wheel every time. You have complete autonomy over where you want to push that source code and how you want to interact with it. Same goes for the wallets, right? You may, maybe you want to use a HSM backed wallet for this person's identity on chain X, right? For this use case, maybe you want to use a HD wallet, on this chain for another use case right there. Maybe it's, asset classes that you want to split, right? If I'm, purchasing a high fidelity, high value NFT, maybe I do want it to be in a, MPC provider or an externally owned account. If it's a loyalty campaign, maybe it's okay for it to be, in a custodied server side wallet, like an HD wallet. So when you think about those pancakes that Bob showed, this is a very, very comprehensive, powerful platform. This is giving you, we're providing blockchain as a service for a bunch of these different protocols. So you've covered that box. You have the middleware tier, which is providing you with, that API generation with the event streams, but also with those really powerful integrations into your existing systems, right? Like OAuth, like databases, like key management. And then on top, right, via the NFT marketplace, via the bridging that Bob alluded to, you have accelerators and easy buttons on actually doing exciting stuff and doing powerful stuff that sits right below your application tier. So once you understand the API surface you need to exercise, the business logic, types of smart contracts you want to use, the different sort of approaches you want to use for keys and custody, you can spend your time as, product owners, developers, whatever your, specific niche is in the company. You spend that time focusing on your customer and focusing on the end user experience and, the problem that you're solving or the value that you're providing, to the business or to the end users. So this is a ton of the plumbing, a ton of the infrastructure, all with an easy button on top of it where you don't actually ever need to become a blockchain expert, with the exception of if you're going to bring in a, really extended bespoke smart contract. So hopefully the ease of use, but also the sophistication resonated with folks that are watching this. I think there might have been one more question.
There is about use cases where you might mint to a private chain. There's a whole variety of them, some of which are based on what Nick was saying earlier about you may have non-crypto savvy users who want to have an asset. And then you have crypto savvy users who want to not only have that asset, they want to be able to exchange it with somebody or sell it to somebody. Or it may be that along the journey of your system, you start off with a private collection and you don't want to incur all the gas fees associated with it. But as your users become more Web3 savvy, you can offer that as a capability. One example we've seen is in the corporate credentialing, like certifications, where I achieve a certain certification at my company for the safe handling of food, for example, and I could get an NFT that represents that. But when I leave the company, that certification, even though it's attached to me, is still held on that sidechain, that NFT there. Whereas if you have a bridging functionality, such as the Kaleido Trusted Bridge, which is an easy way to burn on one chain and move it to another chain, you can provide the ability to give portability of that asset off of your own private zero gas ecosystem onto a public ecosystem so that that user can take that with them as they move on to a new job or something like that. That's an example. I don't know, Nick, if you have some other examples.
No, those were great ones. I think also, this has been true for me. This is true for a lot of users. You come into this space, right, as a non-crypto savvy user, right? So maybe I have some assets and I start looking at MetaMasks and, different wallet providers. And then I say, well, hey, my asset is on a private blockchain, but I want to be able to truly trade this with, anyone in the world. So, you design your application again to delegate the user experience to the end user, and Bob, Alice, whomever has an asset, and, you have a button that says, do you want this to be, a public asset, right? I want it to be able to be listed on OpenSea, for example, or I want to just arbitrarily trade it on Polygon or on Ethereum. So it really comes down to, sort of how much transparency you need with the asset. Has the asset appreciated in value? Has your use case moved out of being like super, super regulated and private, and now it can be a little more public? I think there's a whole slew of examples and scenarios where that would be, applicable. And we just provide that easy button for you, right? And your only responsibility is paying a little bit of fuel, which again, the asset platform and Kaleido will do on your behalf, to subsequently manifest that asset onto the public network of your choice. So yeah, it's an incredibly flexible system. We hope that's what the takeaway was. And there's some email addresses and a bunch of links and stuff that has been posted in the webinar chat. So, if anyone has any questions, would like to dive into your specific use case in more detail, just give us a note, give us a shout, and maybe you get Bob, maybe you get myself, but you'll get someone in the company, and we're more than happy to spend some time with you and meet you where you are at the current phase of your project. So I think we're 1 minute over. I'd like to just give a big thanks to Bob for taking an hour out of his day and all the prep to provide this demonstration today. You please follow us on LinkedIn, on Twitter, et cetera. We'll be doing a bunch of additional webinars as the asset platform continues to add more functionality. Again, this is recorded. You'll get it in about 24 hours. It'll also be posted to YouTube, where Kaleido Blockchain, just type that into YouTube, where you'll be able to see this and hundreds of past webinars. So I'd like to just say thank you to everyone.